The morning alarm buzzed at 5:30, but Marcus Chen was already awake, staring at the ceiling of his cramped studio apartment. Through the thin walls, he could hear his 80-year-old daughter Emma breathing softly on the pull-out couch that served as her bed. He moved quietly, muscle memory guiding him through their shared space without disturbing her peaceful sleep. Marcus pulled on his black polo shirt and khakis, the uniform of Pinnacle Coffee downtown. His reflection in the bathroom mirror showed tired eyes but determined shoulders. At 34, he carried himself with a quiet dignity that seemed almost out of place for a man who spent his days taking coffee orders and wiping down tables. He kissed Emma's forehead gently before leaving. "Sleep well, sweetheart," he whispered. "Daddy will pick you up after school." The early morning streets were empty as Marcus walked the 12 blocks to work. He preferred walking, saving the bus fare for Emma's school supplies. Each step brought him closer to another day of measured smiles and careful politeness, another day of being invisible to customers who saw only the uniform, never the man wearing it. At Pinnacle Coffee, Marcus unlocked the door with his key. Manager Brad wouldn't arrive for another hour, which gave Marcus time to prepare everything perfectly. He moved through the opening routine with practiced efficiency, grinding beans, calibrating the espresso machine, arranging pastries with an attention to detail that went far beyond what was required. "Where in the world are you watching from this morning?" he said quietly to himself, a habit he developed during these solitary hours. "What time is it where you are right now?" Marcus checked his phone. One text from Emma's school about a field trip permission slip. Another day was beginning. By 7 o'clock, the first customers began trickling in. Marcus served each one with genuine warmth, remembering their usual orders without being asked. Mrs. Patterson liked her latte extra hot with 1 sugar. Mr. Rodriguez preferred his Americano black, no room for cream. These small acknowledgments seemed to surprise them, as if they weren't used to being truly seen by service workers. His phone buzzed with a text from Emma. "Good morning, Daddy. I remembered my math homework." The message made him smile, the first real smile of his day. At 8:15, manager Brad Sullivan arrived with his usual scowl and clipboard. Marcus was 26, 2 years younger than Marcus, but carried himself like he owned the world. His family connections had landed him the management position straight out of college, despite having no real experience in hospitality or business operations. "Chen, you're moving too slow this morning," Brad announced loudly enough for customers to hear. "We need efficiency, not whatever this is." He gestured dismissively at Marcus's careful attention to each order. Marcus nodded quietly. "Of course, sir. I'll pick up the pace." But Marcus didn't rush. He continued serving each customer with the same thoughtful care, the same attention to detail. Years of experience had taught him that quality mattered more than speed, that treating people with respect created loyalty. Brad might not understand this, but Marcus knew the difference between management and leadership. During his 10-minute break, Marcus stepped outside and called Emma's school to discuss the field trip costs. $42. He mentally calculated their budget, moving numbers around like pieces on a chessboard. They could make it work if he picked up an extra shift this weekend. When he returned, the morning rush was building, and Marcus slipped back into his rhythm, invisible but essential. At 9:30, a man Marcus had never seen before entered the coffee shop. He wore faded jeans and a simple gray sweater, nothing that would draw attention. But Marcus noticed things others missed. The way the stranger's eyes systematically scanned the layout, the customer flow, the equipment setup. His posture was too straight for someone just grabbing coffee. And there was something about his hands, clean and soft, not the hands of someone who worked with them. The man approached the counter slowly, studying the menu board with unusual intensity. Marcus watched him take mental notes about pricing, product placement, even the efficiency of the ordering system. "Good morning," Marcus said with his usual warmth. "What can I get started for you today?" The stranger looked directly at him, and Marcus caught a glimpse of sharp intelligence behind carefully casual eyes. "I'll have a courte d'eau with oat milk, extra shot, and could you make that with your single-origin Ethiopian beans if you have them available? Marcus paused. Most customers ordered lattes or cappuccinos. This man knew coffee terminology that suggested serious knowledge about espresso preparation. Absolutely, sir. Excellent choice. The Ethiopian has beautiful floral notes that pair perfectly with oat milk. The stranger nodded approvingly. You know your coffee. As Marcus prepared the drink, he felt the man watching every movement. Not like a typical customer waiting for their order, but like someone evaluating technique, timing, consistency. Marcus found himself working with extra precision, though he couldn't explain why. When he handed over the cordidu, the stranger took a careful sip and nodded with what seemed like genuine appreciation. Perfect extraction, he said quietly. Thank you. The man found a corner table with a clear view of the entire operation and settled in with his laptop, but Marcus noticed he spent more time observing than typing. The lunch rush brought its usual chaos, and Brad emerged from the back office like a storm cloud looking for somewhere to rain. He surveyed the line of customers with obvious irritation, then zeroed in on Marcus as his target. Chen, you're creating a bottleneck again, Brad announced loudly. Stop having conversations with every customer. This isn't a social club. Marcus continued preparing orders with steady hands, but his jaw tightened slightly. I'm just ensuring quality service, sir. Customer satisfaction drives repeat business. Don't lecture me about business, Brad snapped. You make coffee. I make decisions. Stick to what you know. From his corner table, the stranger looked up from his laptop, his attention now fully focused on the interaction. Marcus noticed the man's expression shift, a subtle hardening around his eyes. Throughout the afternoon, Brad found reasons to criticize Marcus in front of customers. The espresso was pulled too slowly. The milk was steamed too carefully. The counter wasn't wiped frequently enough. Each comment was designed to diminish Marcus in the eyes of everyone watching. But Marcus had suggestions brewing in his mind, solutions he developed from years of observing operations. The ordering system could be streamlined. The inventory rotation wasn't optimal. The staff scheduling created unnecessary bottlenecks during peak hours. These insights came naturally to him, patterns he recognized from experience that went far beyond making coffee. During a brief lull, Marcus glanced at the mysterious customer and caught him studying the workflow with intense concentration. Their eyes met for a moment, and Marcus saw something unexpected there. Recognition, perhaps. Or evaluation. The stranger's attention felt different from the casual observation of other customers. This man was measuring everything, including how Marcus handled Brad's constant undermining. Over the next 3 days, the stranger returned at different times, always ordering something slightly different, always watching. Marcus began to anticipate his visits, preparing for the complex orders that tested his skills. Tuesday brought a Gibraltar with Madagascar vanilla. Wednesday, a flat white with precise microfoam art. Thursday, a pour-over that required exact timing and temperature control. Each interaction felt like an examination, and Marcus found himself rising to meet the challenge. The man asked subtle questions about bean origins, extraction methods, even the business hours and customer patterns. Not the casual curiosity of a coffee enthusiast, but the pointed inquiries of someone conducting research. Marcus started paying closer attention to details about his mysterious customer. The man's watch, partially hidden under his sleeve, was a Patek Philippe worth more than Marcus made in a year. His casual clothes were expensive, understated luxury that only someone with real money would choose. And there was his posture, the way he carried himself with quiet authority even while trying to blend in. During his afternoon break, Marcus stepped outside and called Emma. "How was school today, sweetheart?" "Good, Daddy. We learned about business in social studies. Did you know some people study companies before they buy them?" The comment hit Marcus like a revelation. Where in the world do you think observers hide when they're watching something important? He asked himself quietly after hanging up. What part of this pattern resonates most with you? When Marcus returned inside, the stranger was gone, but his laptop bag remained at the table. Marcus noticed it was expensive leather, with initials embossed in gold. JW. The pieces of a puzzle were starting to form in Marcus's mind, though he couldn't quite see the complete picture yet. Friday morning brought the week's busiest rush, and with it, Brad's worst mood yet. He'd apparently received complaints from corporate about declining efficiency ratings, and he was looking for someone to blame. Marcus became his target when a customer's order took an extra 30 seconds to perfect. "Are you kidding me, Chen?" Brad's voice carried across the entire shop. "You're holding up the whole line for foam art that nobody cares about. This is a coffee shop, not an art gallery." The criticism stung because it was unfair. Marcus had been maintaining quality while managing higher volume than usual. But he kept his voice calm and professional. "I understand your concern, sir. I'll focus on speed while maintaining our standards." "Standards?" Brad laughed harshly. "Your standard is unemployment if you don't pick up the pace. Maybe you're not cut out for this kind of work." The stranger sat at his usual table, and Marcus saw his hands tighten around his coffee cup. The man's face remained neutral, but something dangerous flickered in his eyes as he watched Brad's public humiliation continue. During his break, Marcus's phone rang. Emma's cheerful voice filled his ear. "Daddy, my teacher says I need to bring $42 for the field trip by Monday." "Of course, sweetheart. Daddy will make sure you have it." "But Daddy, I heard you talking about money last night. If it's too much, I don't have to go." Marcus felt his heart break a little. "You're going on that field trip, Emma. Daddy will figure it out." He always did. When he returned, he noticed the stranger had been listening, his expression thoughtful and increasingly troubled by what he was witnessing. That evening, Marcus couldn't sleep. He sat at his small kitchen table with a notebook, sketching out ideas that had been forming in his mind for weeks. Revenue optimization strategies. Customer flow improvements. Inventory management systems. The kind of operational analysis he used to do in his previous life, before everything changed. He studied the mysterious customers' patterns, the questions he'd asked, the way he observed everything. Marcus had seen this behavior before, during his consulting days. Due diligence. Market research. Someone was evaluating Pinnacle Coffee for acquisition or investment. Marcus made a decision that could cost him his job. He began writing, pouring years of suppressed business expertise onto paper. Analysis of peak hour inefficiencies. Suggestions for menu optimization. Insights about customer retention strategies that Brad completely missed. Staff scheduling improvements that could increase productivity by 20%. The stranger wasn't just a coffee enthusiast. He was someone with real power, someone who could implement these changes. Someone who might actually listen. What would you do in this position? Marcus asked himself quietly, echoing the question that had been haunting him all week. Sometimes we have to take risks for what's right, don't we? He folded the detailed analysis carefully and slipped it into his uniform pocket. Tomorrow, he would either help improve the business he cared about, or lose the job he desperately needed. But staying silent while watching poor management damage both the business and his co-workers felt like a betrayal of everything he'd once stood for. Marcus looked at Emma sleeping peacefully on the couch. He was doing this for her future too, for the chance that someone might finally see his true worth and offer them both something better. Saturday morning arrived with unusual tension. Marcus felt the folded note in his pocket like a weight, knowing that handing it over would cross a line he couldn't uncross. When the stranger entered at his usual time, Marcus's heart rate quickened. "The usual core to do?" Marcus asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "Actually, let me try something different today," the man replied. "Surprise me. Something that showcases your real skills." Marcus understood this wasn't just about coffee anymore. He prepared a complex beverage that required precise timing and technique, a signature drink he'd developed but never served to customers. As he worked, his hands moved with the confidence of someone who understood both craft and business. When he placed the drink on the counter, Marcus made his choice. Along with the receipt, he discreetly slipped the folded note underneath the saucer. The paper contained 3 pages of detailed operational analysis, revenue projections, and strategic recommendations that could transform the coffee shop's performance. The stranger accepted the drink and returned to his table. Marcus watched from the corner of his eye as the man took a sip, nodded approvingly, then noticed the paper. What followed was 15 minutes of intense reading, the man's expression shifting from curiosity to surprise to something approaching amazement. Marcus saw him pull out his phone and make a quiet call, speaking in hushed, urgent tones while occasionally glancing back at the note. This wasn't casual interest anymore. This was recognition. Brad emerged from the back office and immediately noticed the interaction between Marcus and the customer. His eyes narrowed with suspicion, and Marcus realized his carefully calculated risk might have just become a very dangerous gamble. James Wellington sat in his Mercedes outside the coffee shop, staring at the note that had completely changed his perspective. He'd spent the last hour making calls, having his assistant research Marcus Chen. What he discovered left him stunned. Marcus Chen, former senior consultant at Strategic Solutions Group. MBA from Northwestern. Specialized in operational efficiency and market expansion strategies. His firm had helped dozens of companies optimize their performance before he disappeared from the business world 3 years ago. The timeline matched Marcus's wife's battle with cancer, her death, and his transition to single parenthood. James realized he'd been watching a man who had sacrificed a 6-figure career to care for his family, then stayed invisible to provide stability for his daughter. The note itself was brilliant. Marcus had identified operational inefficiencies that James's own consultants had missed. Revenue optimization strategies that could increase profits by 30%. Customer retention insights that showed deep understanding of consumer psychology. This wasn't just coffee shop wisdom, this was executive-level strategic thinking. James made another call to his acquisition team. "Change of plans," he said quietly. "I've found exactly what we need." Meanwhile, inside the shop, Brad's suspicion had evolved into paranoia. He'd watched Marcus pass something to the mysterious customer, seen the man's intense reaction, witnessed the phone calls. In Brad's small mind, this could only mean one thing: corporate espionage, insider information, some kind of scheme that threatened his position. Marcus felt the storm building but continued working with quiet dignity, unaware that his leap of faith had just transformed his entire future. Sometimes the greatest risks lead to the most unexpected rewards, though the immediate danger was only beginning to unfold. Monday morning brought the confrontation Marcus had been dreading. Brad arrived early, his face flushed with righteous anger and clipboard clutched like a weapon. He'd spent the weekend convincing himself that Marcus was somehow undermining his authority through secret dealings with customers. "Chen, my office, now," Brad barked loudly enough for everyone to hear. Marcus followed him to the cramped back office, but Brad deliberately left the door open so customers and staff could witness what came next. "I saw you passing information to that customer on Saturday," Brad announced. Corporate policy strictly forbids sharing proprietary business data with unauthorized individuals. This is grounds for immediate termination. Marcus remained calm despite his racing heart. "I provided customer service, sir. Nothing more. Don't lie to me," Brad's voice rose dangerously. "I saw you slip him something. You think I'm stupid? You think you can go behind my back and undermine my management?" From the front counter, James had entered and was witnessing the entire scene. His expression grew darker with each word of Brad's baseless accusations. Marcus straightened his shoulders, and for the first time in months, spoke with the authority of his former professional self. "I gave him business recommendations that could improve our operational efficiency by 30% and increase customer satisfaction significantly. If you'd like to discuss revenue optimization strategies, I'm happy to explain." The transformation was startling. Marcus's posture changed, his voice carried quiet confidence, and suddenly everyone could see the executive he'd once been. Have you ever seen someone stand up for what's right? The question hung in the air as James stepped forward, ready to reveal everything. Let us know where you're listening from, because what happens next will change everything. James Wellington stepped into the office doorway, his casual demeanor completely transformed. The mild-mannered customer was gone, replaced by someone who radiated unmistakable authority and power. "Excuse me," he said quietly, but his voice carried the weight of boardrooms and billion-dollar decisions. "I couldn't help but overhear this conversation." Brad spun around, irritated by the interruption. "Sir, this is a private employee matter. Please return to your table." James smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "I'm James Wellington, CEO of Wellington Enterprises. I've been conducting due diligence on this location for potential acquisition, and I need to clarify something immediately." The color drained from Brad's face. Marcus felt the world shift around him as pieces clicked into place. Wellington Enterprises. The billion-dollar conglomerate that specialized in hospitality acquisitions. "The information Mr. Chen provided me," James continued, "was the most insightful operational analysis I've received in 20 years of business. His recommendations could revolutionize how we approach coffee retail efficiency." Marcus stared in shock as James pulled out the note, now dog-eared from multiple readings. "This document contains strategies that my paid consultants missed completely. Revenue projections that are spot-on accurate. Customer psychology insights that demonstrate extraordinary business acumen." Brad's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. "You're actually," he stammered, "a billionaire CEO, yes. And I'm about to make Mr. Chen an offer that will change his life, if he's interested." James looked directly at Marcus. "I've researched your background, Marcus. Northwestern MBA, Strategic Solutions Group, impressive track record before life took you in a different direction. We need someone exactly like you." The coffee shop had gone completely silent, every customer and employee frozen in amazement at the stunning revelation unfolding before them. Marcus felt the weight of 3 years of silence lifting from his shoulders. The man who had once built strategic plans for Fortune 500 companies was finally being seen again, not just as a barista, but as the professional he had always remained in his heart. "Mr. Wellington," Marcus said, his voice steady and professional, "I'm honored by your offer, but I need to consider my daughter's stability. Any position would need to accommodate my responsibilities as a single father." James nodded with genuine respect. "That's exactly why I want you on my team, Marcus. A man who sacrifices a lucrative career for his family's well-being demonstrates the kind of character we value. We'll structure something that works for both your professional growth and Emma's needs." Brad stood frozen in humiliation, watching his authority crumble as corporate reality reasserted itself. The other employees stared in amazement at the complete reversal of fortune unfolding before them. 2 weeks later, Marcus walked into his new office at Wellington Enterprises as Senior Director of Operational Strategy. Emma's field trip money was no longer a concern. Neither was the rent, or her college fund, or any of the financial pressures that had weighed on them for so long. But more than the money, Marcus had found something he thought he'd lost forever: recognition for his true worth. Someone had finally seen past the uniform to the man wearing it. That evening, as he helped Emma with her homework at their new kitchen table, she looked up with bright eyes. "Daddy, my teacher says taking risks can lead to wonderful surprises." Marcus smiled, thinking of the note that had changed everything. "Sometimes, sweetheart, the biggest risk is staying invisible when you have something valuable to offer the world." If this story of second chances and hidden worth touched your heart, let us know where you're listening from around the world and subscribe for more inspiring stories that remind us to look deeper.